a couple of plays, but we are going to start making the picks happen as draft has begun, and already 2 marksmen have been eliminated by LGD, the Ezreal and the Vayne. Obviously, Vayne a flexible pick as well, but some respect over to Viper specifically, Dia.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, this guy has been incredible at adapting to the new meta, and for that reason, I'm not even that worried about the 2 marksman bans. I think they're respectful, but they honestly don't limit Viper's options that much. And seeing what Viper is going to choose, actually maybe something that we wait a little bit later in the draft for, depending on how BLG want to approach this. I'm expecting them to have an aggressive draft strategy, but I'm also hoping that they end up showing us their top side a little bit earlier. Because I don't think that BLG is going to win through top side, I'd rather have sort of an established safe strategy there and then start exploring options through the rest of the map.
We have already established that Wenbo specifically has had some difficulties in the LPL thus far, so I think giving him the option of counter pick would help alleviate some of those concerns going into game number 1. If that's what BLG decide to do, I think that would be a pretty solid plan. But we see the Nocturne already brought on up here for Heng. Again, one of the big playmakers of LGD, does allow him to have that skirmishing potential and that map impact once he gets onto the Paranoia. Does maybe give BLG a bit of an opening before then, though, and so they are going to slam the Neferi for that early game aggression that we mentioned Shun likes so much. But I really want to see a roaming support like the Bard, like the Camille, to help make this threat extra potent early on.
Especially thinking about the jungle pool and the fact that these 2 have been locked in for later. I am really hoping that we get a Kiana later in the games. I know that's been really good for Heng, and I'm very curious, I guess, without that team fight ability, whether he's able to convert in the same way on Nocturne. I like the lock-in on Syndra for Tangyuan. This has been a very good pick for him this split. The Jace immediately afterwards, though, I did not see coming.
Very strong topside here already for LGD. You've got a lot of damage being stacked by all 3 of these guys, and a lot of scaling around the 2-item mark for all 3 of them as well. So I do think that BLG, I'll be interested to see what they respond with. Yorick, obviously a really good lane counter into the Jason, also does provide that side lane threat, which Nocturne is decent at dealing with if you're desynced, but like we have said so many times, this is BLG, and I don't expect them to be super desynced. Also, again, we expected the Wenbo counter pick. Came a little bit quicker than we thought. Was expecting it maybe on 4-5 here, but still is going to be giving himself a favorable matchup to, again, alleviate maybe some of the concerns we have. This fish out of water narrative that we've kind of put on him, maybe going to be less in this game number 1.
As we enter the second phase of draft, a Poppy ban, and a good takeaway. However, I think that right now I'm really looking for any sign of where this Cassiopeia is going to end up. I'm expecting it to be in the mid lane. Anybody should, but it's 2026, it's split 3, and Knight's Cassiopeia
Viper has played a Cassio
the last
game.
time it came out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Viper has played the Cassiopeia in the bot lane before, and this is a matchup that I think Syndra generally wins just because the stickiness of Cassiopeia in the laning phase, the ability to keep on trading, landing a Q, and then spamming out E's is something that she really likes to do. Syndra with a Scatter the Weak can just immediately peel you off of that, so does make it a bit difficult for Knight to heavily trade in the laning phase. Can definitely see a world where they decide, hey, let's just send it to the bot lane. It seems like LGD are kind of living in that world. They've got the Akali ban and the Galio ban, so they're fully prepared for this flex if BLG decide to go for it.
Rel's up if you want to. If you want to snap that up right now.
Yeah. Camille too.
It's a good option. Yeah, and I say that and I'm like, oh yeah, of course, Camille, the Camille that has been terrorizing lobbies. Yeah,
has been basically globally permabanned, pick or ban, and not surprised to see on it this time. Leona is the typical counter pick just because every time you go for a hook shot, Leona is going to be there with the Eclipse to block it. Shen as well, another answer, does also give you some of that global pressure, and syncs maybe a bit better with the Nocturne as well. Paranoia plus Stand United gives a bit more safety and a bit more boldness over to Heng on which engages he decides to go for. And a lock is going to be locked in, Dia. Okay. So our first game casting the new champion.
Okay, good. I have done my prep in solo queue for this. I think I'm ready for the pace. You know, every champion brings a little bit of a different pace to a team fight. I think we've got locked down. It may be that he blows up this game and we have no chance to really prepare, but a Vladimir lock-in last is exactly what BLG set themselves up for. Not the champion, but the opportunity to pivot here, because as we were talking about, they saved the pick for whether or not Cassiopeia would be going down to the bot lane. Until now, how do you feel about the fact that we've now gotten Vlad in bot lane?
All right, so I think that this is a pretty good lane for Vladimir overall. Scales extremely well, and that is the thing that I'll be looking at here for both of these teams. I think that both squads have a decent amount of early game pressure, but then once you get toward that mid to late game, it's going to be about which team is capable of handing that baton off to their late game threats. You've got Syndra versus Vladimir. Locke as well does have a lot of scaling, so he can also be counted as some kind of late game threat if he snowballs decently early on. So both teams have threats early, both teams have threats late. It's really going to be which team gets those rotations down and which team is able to kind of have that seamless transition from the early game threat to the late game threat.
It is going to also be, I think, a question of how much we can snowball, because Locke, especially when you've got a Nocturne and a Syndra and a Jace in your team, like you talked about, we have these really potent 2-item spikes. This seems like a game where the snowball is really what it's all about, especially once you hit second Drake, once you're around the 2-item mark, that you have to be taking over the game with this composition, or you are just going to slowly but surely get steamrolled in the late game by a Vladimir Cassiopeia. Like, what do you do?
LGD! LGD! LGD!
Maybe some more love for BLG in the crowd is to be expected, and already we're fighting over Raptors!
I mean, why not start things off this way? Shun, once again low, flashing away, is going to go down for first blood. Given over to the Lock, one of the worst case scenarios, and on will follow a double kill this early on to Shaoye on Lock. Oh, we are doing some crazy things this game.
All right, well, we said that we haven't seen Shaoye on a magic damage champion yet, and he starts out the game 2-0. That's a pretty good start to a style we have yet to see from this player. Wouldn't you agree, Dia?
I would. I'm scared. This is one of those things where I'm experiencing solo queue emotions. I see those kills go down in the mid lane, and for Viper, I go, oh no, man. Oh my god.
Vladimir, APC, by the way, not been played since 2019, so has been a very long time. One of those teams you saw V5 doesn't even exist anymore, Dia, as we already see On maybe getting punished for his excessive roaming. Viper did get some free CS, but now that Shaoye has those 2 items, it's just very difficult for Vladimir with those high cooldowns to actually get the wave in a favorable state, and I expect this to kind of be the norm. I think that the Lock Shen lane should have favorable lane states and mostly keep that prio maintained until Vlad gets some of that that haste to be able to spam those Qs out.
Get a good bit of damage in here as well. Just already having the ability to jump so far forward and take aggressive trades. He could kill on right then, but instead Crisp is going to be the one to go down as Viper's decided this is a winning trade. Shaoye doesn't have the damage to take on Viper just yet, but with 2 nail stacks up, maybe. He chooses not to try and turn it as he misses the 3rd nail, and Viper manages to get a kill back. And a little bit of redemption in this lane.
Bit of an oopsie there from Crisp. Takes a turret shot. Viper picking himself up a kill, and now actually being able to shove in the wave. It was going to be slow pushing for them, but if LGD were able to keep both members alive, they probably would have been able to thin that out and just keep the wave in a position that was favorable to them. Now On is back in the mid lane.
Get pushed away, but still flash forced out of Tangyuan. There's a lot of summoners that have been used in the first couple minutes of this game. Shun still has his on cooldown. On, of course, burned his in the same play. Crisp, Shaoye, and Tangyuan now missing them. Even Heng doesn't have flash. Like, a lot of tools are missing, but most of those tools are on LGD.
We're gonna get a replay of the fight yet again, and Crisp initially blocking the wall shot there from On, and then the damage coming through here onto the Camille. I think Crisp, yeah, just greeting to try and walk up for that auto attack, takes a turret shot, was trying to secure the kill for LGD on the bot side, but goes a little too close and does end up paying the price. Now I think Viper is able to pick up those Ionian boots, so ability haste acquired will at least allow him to have some more trading power and thin out the waves a bit, and maybe not get nearly as bullied by Shaoye.
It's funny to see that out of Crisp as well, because we were just talking about him in the pregame as being the guy in this lane who had to hold things back, who had to put Shaoye in the right positions, but knowing that they've got an advantage, this bot lane as a whole, it does get a little bit aggressive here, and it's for good reason. Crisp does really like looking out for kills in the first series alone that he had with this squad. Was able to pull out an 88% KP and has kept that up. So whether living or dying, Crisp is going to be involved in the fights.
Looks like Heng might be involved in this gank here as Wenbo is pushed up. Burdol is not anywhere close to his jungler though.
Burdol, fortunately, is one of the few people who has flash, and Heng did get his back up. Wenbo, importantly, though, has managed to hold on to his, and this gank, as well-timed as it seemed, didn't even let Burdol take out the Maiden, which is actually quite bad, given that you've just spent the time of your jungler to show top lane, exposing this dragon, and not even getting Yorick's Maiden down?
Shun gonna be able to pick up that neutral. At the very least, it will give Burdol a somewhat favorable reset timer for himself on this chase. I think pretty important when you're playing a champion of this magnitude that really is all about resources, is all about gold, as Crisp is a walking bag of resources, it seems, for BLG.
It's almost like a replay because we started the game with a fight here, but Crisp gets away this time. Ignite down also for On, but it's flashed back up in case they want to try and make another play around the bot lane where On is heading just now. 6 minutes in, we do have first dragon already taken down, which means that all of BLG and LGD should be focusing on one objective and one objective only. The Void Grub's coming up in about a minute 30.
See some control being gained there by Shun as On is actually going to commit. Viper
is Vladimir, unfortunately.
Yup.
Definitely looking practiced on the champion.
Does manage to get out of there, but crucially, we do have the junglers hitting on to level 6 here. So Heng, we talked about it in the draft, on this Nocturne will start to be able to make some of those more aggressive plays on the pick. Meanwhile, Shun, really for this Nefiri, for me, it's all about how he pairs up with On. So I think with the grubs coming up in about 45 seconds, you can see Camille already hovering around that mid lane. We are going to have to see how those two sync up together, because that is a lot of single target damage. If you're able to get the resets, I think that opens up the door for Shun to really wreak havoc on the rest of the fight.
Who's able to isolate better? Will it be the Nocturne Shen or will it be the Camille Neferi? It's an arms race early on in the game, but a lot of that is already being won by BLG in terms of the vision that they've got set up around Void Grubs. That needs to be contested to set up the isolated plays that LGD won.
So we do see LGD walking a little bit into the river. I'm looking at the top lane now, and we do have a swap coming through here. Viper actually going to be in the top lane himself. You were mentioning how a lot of summoners were burned early on, Dia. A lot of those are also coming back up. Crucially, I really want to pay attention to this Vladimir, though, who has Flash and Ghost. So if a timer does open up for him to get aggressive, might not be on these grunts, as LGD are just going to take that without any contest from BLG. But if he has an opportunity to get aggressive, we saw it in that failed attempt kill by Chris, he will absolutely take it. He will throw down a summoner spell and charge at LGD if a window does get open for him to do so.
Viper immediately taking a trade with Burdol. Does not have to be afraid on this Vladimir. Gets to play up close and in your face, even this early on into the game. Wisp for him. Tangyuan ends up ulting an invulnerable Shun, and that is an ult down for him. The Dragon coming up in just over 2 minutes. Should be back up by then, but Shun still continues exuding pressure, even in a 3v2. Soon to be a 3v3 as in comes Knight on, recommits to the fight. Another Scat of the Week, stuns 3, but a Nocturnal ult in the backline will finally take down one. On will fall for his hubris. Heng will join him, and Shun even ults onto Chris, just to assert his dominance.
And now look, I mean, Tangyuan is going to cut away from mid lane to try and bully Shun off of the wave because he really doesn't want the Neferi having access to that part of the map. Shaoye maybe going to look for the kill.
Oh, he actually went for the Ashen Pursuit immediately. Shun gets out of that, but the fact that Shaoye even thought he had the kill,
you know,
an odd moment. You know, it's his first time playing Lock.
It's a valiant attempt there, and he does manage to pick it up a little bit, so refunds 20% of the cooldown as Viper, very bold walk up there, almost goes down, has to use both of those summoner spells that we talked about. He maybe wanted to save to be more aggressive, but now On is here.
Yeah, Viper actually baits out Shaoye again to recommit to the fight, leaving Chris all in his low.
Here's
Knight shows up to the bot lane as well. Ends up with an ult directly to the face, and 2 kills go to BLG. On does die, giving another kill to Shaoye, but that is a big trade up for BLG, who lose nothing in the process. Wenbo may be the trade as Heng's got his ult back up.
But Wenbo, I think, really good recognition there that Heng didn't appear toward that bot side, is likely looking for a cross map. He respects it, backs away, and will likely be the thing that saves his life. The only thing the Nocturne will be getting are some chickens at the end of the day, Dia. But now, Dragon is up. The Nocturne has to cross over, and crucially, we do have Knight getting his first item of the game. So Roa Complete does make that Cassiopeia significantly tankier and harder to take down. And LGD, we talk about that single target threat. Feels like the Cassiopeia has been removed from that list of champions LGD will be able to absolutely one-shot.
Now, in the pre-game, we had listed LGD's composition as being particularly strong around second Drake. Well, it's second Drake right now, and they are taking it on spawn. Shun wants to try and contest for the smite still. Will he be able to get close enough? The answer, we found out very quickly, is no. LGD just a little bit too powerful at this point in the game. And with a, even now, small goal disadvantage, they still have a win in the larger scope of this game. Right now is some of the strongest that LGD's comp is going to be now and for the next, I'll call it 10-15 minutes.
When BLG really don't have a way to enter into the fights without Camille going for a hook shot, I think that is when LGD can really get the green light to make a lot of these plays. We saw there that On was significantly chunked out, and unless Shun is feeling extra bold without his flash, there really is no way for BLG to enter into that river and actually contest for that dragon, as Scat of the Week does hit.
Hookshot to try and take him out. Unfortunately for On, it is not nearly enough. LGD still control this river, and BLG once again misestimate their strength, but this time it is not Shun making the overcommittal. it's On that's getting punished for this.
It's now 4 kills over to Shaoye, has the Lich Bane complete as well, and is feeling bold enough, despite being a level down, to actually look for these trades against Viper, but Viper will take that.
The auto once again goes for the kill, but this time doesn't have any stacks up. So Shaoye will just take the damage on Viper. The Viper should be very comfortable healing back up on Vladimir.
Yeah, we'll be able to catch this wave. Is getting closer and closer to that first item. I've seen a lot of debate on what Vladimir actually likes to go as a core component first item, because he's not really a first item champion, he's more of a third item champion, as we're gonna have to hold that thought. Wenbo is out of health, out of mana, but he's not out of assistance from his jungler. Shun is gonna be there to clear the wave, but it looks like LGD have more members on the top side. Still though, won't be able to make that dive happen. At the very least, though, they're going to get some vision around this Herald in about a minute and a half, where I imagine both of these teams are really going to put emphasis on trying to siege for this, because no turret is even really close to dying yet, Dia.
Well, LGD, they do get a little bit of extra pressure on the top side, so maybe, just maybe, we see that become the focus for them around first tower, but like you say, Rift Herald really seeming like it's going to be the big indicator of that through this game. I do wonder whether BLG will choose to contest it or not. Earlier, I think they had plenty of options to contest Void Grubs. They chose not to. Now, with the second topside objective spawning, I don't think they're in the same position.
I don't either. I think BLG trying to look for a contest on this Herald is something they will struggle with. Like we said, it is very difficult to get an engage onto multiple members if you are this BLG comp, but they found one isolated.
Yeah, finding the single member, that's where it gets much easier. Tangyuan does flash away, but still goes down to the dogs. BLG pick up another isolated kill. Getting themselves, or rather keeping themselves, I'll say, ahead in this game, but still not at their most powerful point in the game. This, however, really good for BLG, because if they're able to keep themselves in this even or ahead state and continue abusing the bot lane, they are going to have things going so well for them in about 5 to 10.
And now they stall out any threat on the Herald as well. On with 1 HP is...
He gets out. He gets out. He's gone. He's gone.
To make out. Yep, he is. He's gone. So that not only extends the timer for BLG to set up vision, get some pressure around this top side to maybe contest for this Herald, but also Knight on a side lane is now Viper in trouble.
Having to flash away from the ult. Tangyuan doing a good job by setting up these stuns. Is Syndra actually bringing a lot of utility, not just in this game, but even in previous series for LGD. So certainly a bright point that they can look to enable Shaoye, who, despite the fact that he hasn't had that much action since, he's still sitting at 4-1. This lock can snap his fingers and kill someone.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's funny too, because, oh, hold that thought, it's not very funny for On as he just goes down, 5th kill over to Shaoye. At some point, you don't even need the nails necessarily as the lock. Once it gets to a point where he doesn't need all 3 to one-shot you, that's when the Doomsday Clock starts to hit 12. And I do think that Shaoye getting those stacks on the Dark Seal, getting closer and closer to 2 items, he's going to be hitting that moment. And there really isn't a humongous central tank onto BLG. You've got a decent amount of health stackers on this comp, but I think the lethality of this lock will be there if he continues to have this much pressure on the map.
BLG have done an exceptional job of playing around the power of lock so far. Actually removing yet another dragon in their favor. 3rd dragon of the game going to BLG. This could be in trade for a Rift Herald as LGD want it to be, but BLG actually feel like they can contest this early in the game. 16 minutes in, and BLG mount a resistance, stopping LGD's Rift Herald.
I mean, look, we see that Shaoye is isolated from the rest of the team. He's going to have to walk into the fight at a pretty uncomfortable angle if he wants to get involved with it. They just want to go on to Viper.
I mean, Viper does make the mistake of wasting his pool early, and unfortunately for the rest of BLG, this means they can't do the Herald anymore. They actually had a pretty powerful position earlier on, but now they may lose mid tower and so much more as LGD are able to do 2 objectives at once, clearing out some of the vision around this Rift Herald, taking the mid lane tower down to a couple hundred HP, and turning back onto the big purple crab.
Is going to reset for the time being. Maybe Shun can look for a steal. He does have flash to get back over the wall.
We're not fighting. Shun wastes his invulnerability, chooses to expend the flash. BLG may be able to win the fight afterwards, depending on Knight, who's been corralling LGD into a corner right now. The first reset coming in through for Shun. Shaoye flashes away, but will still be slain by the fangs from Knight. And On even collects a kill onto Tangyuan. Burdol wants to answer that back. Should be able to, with Knight chasing him down. Could be the end for Burdol as well, but he's got just enough speed with the acceleration gate to get out of there. BLG winning the fight after Rift Herald. A big victory for them.
It's a bit of mayhem up at the Herald Dia, but BLG, like you said, even though they don't get the objective, they get so much pressure on the map. Top lane tier 1 is going to fall, and then also, as we are going into the replay, Viper is able to lane and get some CS on that Vladimir. But going back into the replay here, we do see Knight, I think, just a critical couple of abilities to land on this Cassiopeia that's been accelerated, and that gives the green light over to Shun to engage the fight. And even though he does go down, it gives an opening for the rest of BLG to pour onto LGD, to get involved in the skirmish. And that has been the big struggle for this game. They finally find their moment, but sacrificing one of your pieces for a potent engage doesn't seem like a very replicable strategy in this game. So I do think BLG from here on out might have to get a bit creative if they are the ones that want to start the fights.
Yeah, I'm of 2 minds about this, because BLG have been managing the disadvantage that they got into at minute 1 in this game very well. I've really appreciated the way that they have gone about this. And I look at this last fight and I think, good news, wow, BLG just won this fight. The other way to look at that is bad news. LGD had all the advantages and they completely lost control. They even lost first brick afterwards. So they fight for the Rift Herald in a 4v5 that they should win every single day of the week with a fed AD carry, AP carry, and still losing that. I mean, you know, it is BLG, but it's something to be criticized about the way that we're playing League of Legends. LGD should be winning this.
It's also just the fact that Camille's support does a lot of damage. We saw Camille support solo kill Tangyuan on the Syndra. So I do think that when you're talking about number disadvantages, it's very important to remember that Crisp isn't going to really be doing damage on the Shen. Meanwhile, the Camille is going to be solo killing mid laners. I think that is something that will make the difference and maybe does give a little bit of breathing room over to BLG. If they do lose a member, they can always say, well, we have more damage on our support to maybe make the difference possible. And that certainly was something that factored into that last fight as On did get that solo kill.
And Knight's Cassiopeia is looking a lot better than it did during his last series as well. The way that he's able to manage basically as a one-man army on the side of the fight through the entire Rift Herald sequence makes the future plays for BLG look quite promising. Knight's already got his Roa all the way stacked up and is one of the major scaling threats on the BLG composition as he heads back to mid lane. We've got 20 seconds left until this dragon spawns. LGD are picking a fight. Can BLG claw another win out of it?
They're looking to try. They get the ult onto him.
Taking out one source of damage. Remember, BLG have 4 left.
Yup, they do. Herald going to be spawned here. I think Battle Herald has been a pretty common strategy here in the LPL. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case as Shelly's actually going to get blocked by the playpen, so good on there by Wenbo. But now the York is completely cut off from the rest of his team for the time being, and I think LGD should have a clear way to take this dragon unless they can get Shun into this river, but there are the empowered blast cones.
BLG go for the fight after the objective. It looks like they will. Viper tries to find an engage, but unfortunately without On there, there's just no way to start a fight. You mentioned it earlier. When On is the only way that BLG can really engage, it's not a great look for them. When he's dead and they can't engage at all, that's even worse.
I also think it adds an extra layer of scrutiny over to BLG from that last fight, as Nevermind Heng is just flashing onto Shun.
Shun is very, very dead. Flash over the wall from him does force one out of Burdol as well. Knight teleporting
That's
in.
Jungler down.
He's going to be able to get out with this blast code
Viper.
only into Viper, however, as Viper's trying to assassinate Shaoye, and he will. LGD forced back into their own jungle. 1-for-1 in the overall trade. The BLG are striking ferociously for the throats of LGD. Even as LGD are managing this pretty all right.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pick onto Shun. LGD looking to play with alacrity, turn that into a Baron, but now we're starting to get to the point where Viper, he's got the death cap, has some of that MR shred as well, so will be really starting to hurt in these team fights. And this is the conundrum of Vladimir. I mean, you're awful early game, you've got extremely high cooldowns, but once you get to that late game, once you get some of that haste, once you get some of that AP, you become an absolute demon. As we are going to get the replay here. Shun just not able to really go anywhere. Does use the flash, but then look at the damage coming through from Viper. Drops an E, ults as well, and then in power Q, Shaoye gets isolated, and he's got nowhere to go. And at the same time, the rest of LGD are forced away from the river, so that Baron becomes an afterthought at that point.
It's a weird thing as well, because Shaoye did get so many kills early. We've been talking about him as being this big threat for LGD, but that is mostly what he's been. He's gotten a bit of big damage onto some carries at some point, most of it actually on. But Shaoye, in terms of actually converting on this, has had a pretty low success rate. Viper, on the other hand, as he continues to scale on Vladimir, I don't know who's stopping him from just running at Shaoye every time and murdering him out.
Goes in for a trade, but nothing going to come of that. Yeah, you always got to hold your breath, because I feel like every single attempt at a kill or every single attempt at a pick has been acted on, and usually someone does actually end up dying. So always got to hold your breath for those plays. But surprisingly, nobody dies, despite both teams getting a little bit rough with one another in the mid lane. As now Wenbo, freed up from his shackles in the top lane, is just split pushing and opening up the door to go onto Burdol.
This is not going to be the game where I'm sitting here hyping Burdol up. He has been all right on the Jace, but a overstep like that does cost him, and more importantly, his team. Their bot lane inhibitor tower. BLG get to back away from this. Should they choose? It looks like they want to try and stick around for the inhibitor. Hookshot does save On for now, denying him the chance to engage for a moment, and BLG as a whole will decide that the engage wasn't really worth their time anyway. Backing off, they've got about 1:30 left until the Dragon. Baron's been up for a while as well, so if you get a pick onto somebody not like Burdol, but like Heng, that really opens things up for a game-ending buff.
Heng really is the only thing on LGD, I think, keeping this gold lead in relative contention between these two teams. I mean, it's a 1.9k gold lead for Knight, it's a 1.6k gold lead for On, but on the other side, Heng has a 1.7k gold lead over Shun. So if this Nocturne, like you said, does get found out, if that gold lead does shrink, I think LGD's chances of coming back into this game do significantly shrink with it. And a credit to LGD in this game, regardless of result. We said we wanted to see identity. That was something that we were really concerned about going into this series, given that it feels like they have had a style that was more reminiscent of something you would see in Split 2, and this is a very different meta from what we have had in Split number 2, now that we are in Split number 3. But a comp like this, where I think you've got a engage theme, you've got a strong top side, you've got the lock to add on to the damage as well, and you're finally allowing Shaoye to pick some of these more magic damage-centric champions, does answer a lot of the concerns we had going into this game, Dia.
So just to make sure that I'm sort of like hearing and interpreting correctly, when you're talking about wanting to see identity from a team, it's not so much seeing a strategy that they're able to select and make work, I mean, although of course that's the ideal, but more just seeing that they're going for something at all, because that is definitely what I'm seeing out of LGD. But they are definitely falling short on making it work.
They certainly are, especially because we have criticized BLG's comp and a lot of things haven't been going right for them, but now they're going to look onto a pick on to Wenbo.
Could be the first time that we see Wenbo, and it is, falling in isolation. But even that is going to be traded back. This is soul point secured for BLG. LGD would really like to trade up. They've taken down the top laner of BLG, but the rest of BLG is collapsing on this. Shun still pretty safe on the Nefiri, can commit to the Baron Pit at any time that he likes, and BLG have by far more pressure. Viper's actually going to pop the Ghost, and
Tangyuan.
BLG are certainly going in. Viper's all over the team fight, flashing in the back line on the Tangyuan, but he gets deleted immediately after the pool expires, with Shun and An collaborating to take down Burdol. The rest of LGD throws themselves into the Hextech ultimatum, only to fall one by one. BLG will be clawing back this team fight once again, and his Knight doesn't quite get the stun on the ultimate. What he will leave LGD as is petrified, because an ace has been completed, and it's BLG's Baron.
And you can see smiles and laughter from On in the player cam. He loves playing a champion that can do some damage. 6 kills over to the Camille support, and BLG wiped the floor with LGD. Viper, the guy looking for the engage this time. He's the only one that falls. And we are going to get a secondary replay here. And again, this is what we said they needed to do. Find an isolated member, which is your entrance into the fight. Viper gets a little bit too aggressive here, but still, he corrals all of LGD into an area. Burdol separates himself, and now we're back to live. Wenbo potentially in a 1v3, but the Maiden and all of the Baron-empowered minions, he's going to get out of there no problem.
This is the problem that you've always got when facing down a Vladimir, but especially with the way that Viper is playing him. Again, Viper has made this Vladimir look really good. Is that, yeah, you can kill Vladimir. They do destroy him once he gets out of pool. But he's gotten a full rotation off onto like 3 or more people. And it's Vladimir. He's 3, almost 4 items deep. That 4th item going to be a Zanya's Hourglass, letting him get almost 2 rotations off.
It is pretty dangerous now, again, because he is starting to stack up those magic damage items. I know a lot of people that play Vladimir say that the death cap really is the doomsday item, how he just becomes so unbelievably strong once he has that, and then from there on out you just stack ability haste, and that is what he's doing with the proto belt on top of that. So it's going to be difficult to not only take down Viper, but also withstand his damage, because as you see, the inventories from LGD, there is pretty much no magic resist whatsoever other than a couple of Merc Treads, and that is just not going to cut it.
As we foreshadowed in draft, this is not the point of strength for LGD's composition. The taunt does come through, and Viper's going to get assassinated. The core of the comp still functions. You Nocturnal somebody, you Shen taunt them, and profit. But it is past its point of optimal usefulness. LGD are going to get picks occasionally, but in terms of the 2-item spike where they are most powerful, we are far beyond that now. And in 5v5s, BLG have a definite advantage.
They do. When Viper is on the screen, when Knight is here, as well as On is found crisp. Shun is in the background here, but currently it's actually a numbers advantage for LGD. They're the ones running, though, Dia.
It's really difficult to deal with Shun at this point in the game. Shaoye can't get out of the Hextech ultimatum, is going to stay alive for a little bit longer than another champion might, but even then, it's still a deadlock and a numbers disadvantage for LGD, with a top lane tower being pushed down by an ulting Yorick. We're going to be saying goodbye to this top lane tier 2, and likely quite a bit more with a Baron buff for BLG.
Oh yeah, subsequent turrets are also going to fall here as BLG are sieging On, but now it's Heng trying to 1v1 Viper. Will probably succeed, actually.
To be honest. Forces the pool out, forces out the ghost as well. Viper starts turning this, though. That is a lot of damage to come out of the Vladimir, and Viper in the 1v1 will take down LGD's jungler. 32 minutes into the game, we have seen yet another solo kill go down, but this time it is a snowball that is starting out of control for BLG. We have seen it coming for a long time, but a 5k gold lead is a lot worse than it looks.
And there is the proof of BLG definitively in the driver's seat and poised to take this game. Dia Heng, the shining light for LGD in this game as far as the gold difference was concerned, as I don't even have time to talk. Knight is now engaged on.
I mean, in case we needed another indicator, Knight actually does almost win this. Might still kill Burdol. Nope, hold on. That's all good, all good. Overreacting. However, Soul point going to BLG. If they had Soul, or sorry, Soul going to BLG. If they had Soul there, Knight wins that.
That is true. That is very true. But now, I mean, BLG are going to pick up Soul for themselves. Don't have the Baron buff, though, anymore, so maybe a break on the power of besieging that BLG have displayed over the past couple of minutes when they were wearing and repping the big purple worm. But really, I feel now at this point in the game, all it will take is BLG finding one of these key members, whether it's Shaoye, whether it's Heng, whether it's even Tangyuan, to push down a lane and really start putting the finishing touches on this game. And now it's Heng looking for a rematch.
You know, where have we seen this story before?
Oh!
This
Hextech Ultimatum got spell shielded by the Nocturne. I was not sure if that's how it works, but he actually, does not get ulted there by On. He ends up escaping. So LGD will hold on for a little bit, albeit barely.
So it's a fun little present, right? It keeps your Nocturne alive for a little bit longer, and it does marginally improve your chances of winning the next fight. Does it improve your chances of winning the game? For that, they're going to need another Nocturne ult, and the difficulty is really where are you putting it now? If you're not able to consistently kill Viper, there was a way in via killing On earlier in the game. We saw that be a point of strength for LGD when they were able to isolate the support and deny BLG a chance to engage. I'm not sure that strategy's aged well. I'm not sure it'll continue to.
Does feel really difficult, not only because even if you find yourself onto On, if you're actually able to get to the Camille and get that pick, there's no guarantee you're getting out of there. I think that BLG have done a really good job at waiting in the wings, going in the shadows, and being sure that if LGD do extend for a pick, if they do end up looking for a fight, the rest of BLG are there to respond, are there to answer. And in multi-man fights, like you said earlier, Dia, BLG just have the clear advantage with how hard they've scaled it.
Most important is keeping themselves present in the mid lane. Unfortunately, BLG have identified that, and they will be removing that presence expeditiously. That's what I'm looking for. LGD lose 2, and no more of them in this mid lane, and most importantly, around the Baron pit, which is what BLG are really looking for to end the game.
Yeah, I think they admit they don't really have much sieging power outside of Wenbo on the Yorick, so they're going to say, all right, we need the Baron, we need to go for this objective, and On is traversing around the map, but we have seen this story what feels like thousands of times before, and he's just going to get blown up for his transgressions.
Watching an AI monkey weep. Well, the support gets one shot. What is happening as LGD, unfortunately, seem to be in their last couple minutes of this game? Knight is going to lose his blue buff, maybe reclaim it off of Heng's body. It's a GA for Heng if he wants to last a little bit longer. A teleport from Europe we just saw fly by us, and the game has truly deteriorated at this point, Quax. You know it as well as I do. Watching as this plays, BLG know that they're winning this game. It is a matter of how they do it. And Heng, though he really wants this kill on Shun, is not going to find it. The fiesta has begun, but it cannot be long-lived.
Yeah, Ma Memortius really, against the AD champion, it absolutely saved Shun there. If he didn't have that Ma, Oh, it was over for him. So he is going to survive. Chemtech Soul as well. You know, maybe Chemtech Soul had something to do with that. It's just a theory, though, as now BLG in a 4v5 are going to barrel down into the mid lane.
Wenbo knows that he's effectively immortal right now. And that's not true for Shaoye, nor is it true for Crisp, who get to position aggressively, but not to too much effect. BLG pick up those 2 kills, and they should be able to pick up the game right now. Burdol can do little on this chase. Tangyuan might have another ult to find somebody, but it does not do nearly enough damage, and the Nexus dies before anybody from BLG hits the ground.
Convincing win there from BLG. A couple of hiccups in the early game. We were getting a bit concerned about Shaoye growing in strength and being able to get that snowball on the lock. But once team fights started to come around, BLG do what they do best, and they scrap tooth and nail. And the scaling was just too much at the end of the day. So credit to BLG for holding on until they hit those critical breakpoints. And Viper as well for his endurance with being able to awful Vladimir early game, because it was rewarded with an equally, if not more fun to watch late game.
Yeah, you know, okay, he did really well. We talked about Viper early. I mean, he played incredibly. I'm in a weird impasse here in terms of how we approach this, because LGD did do pretty well, all things considered. However, they also started with a double kill on their AD carry. And if this were, let's say, who's BLG's going up against top next? Let's say they're going up against top esports, and a double kill goes over to top esports in the early game, and BLG lose the game. Yeah, but you know, we just sort of go, well, I mean, of course they were going to lose that game. The fact that that doesn't happen here is both incredible for BLG and a very bad sign for LGD in terms of their competition at the top of the LPL.
I will personally die on the hill that I think no matter what you do to Vladimir, you can never put your foot off the gas whenever you're against this champion, because the moment he gets 3 items, the moment he gets a kill, it's like Kassadin levels of dangerous. Like level 16 Kassadin and 3 item Vladimir, they're like the same exact strength in my mind. So for me, I think that Viper just being able to hold on, maintain relevancy, and not have too many egregious plays until he hit that death cap spike, that really is the highlight for me. And I think Viper has done a really good job this split. We didn't get a lot of time to talk about his individual performances. A lot of our compliments toward him in the pre-show had to do with him being able to play the mages, him being able to acclimate to the new meta that all AD carries have had mixed results on so far in split 3. Not only has he done really good on the mages, he's just been having generally good performances on basically any champion he has picked. I think that Viper over the course of 2026 has been scapegoated a lot for any struggles BLG have had over the year. And so it's really cool for him to have this bounce back, him to have a lot of these flashy KDAs and a lot of these flashy plays to show that he is still the man himself. He is still that former world champion, and he can still bite you if you get too close.
So let's build on that by asking ourselves, and more importantly you, a question here. Is that an MVP performance from Viper? He laid into a guy with 2 kills. He did great. What more do you want from a man?
I mean, good point, right? Give it over to Knight, because he's Knight. That's what I have to say. Because it's Knight.
Fair enough.
No, I would personally feel like just the journey that Viper had to go in order to acquire this scoreline, in order to acquire this level of damage, like it was way more difficult than what Knight had to go through. So I would say just for the journey, I would give it over to Viper. But if we're talking purely stat lines, Knight's looks better. So there you go.
Yeah, no, I think, if you just like look at the scoreboard later, let's assume that they end up sort of following the vein of this conversation on the official broadcast and giving the title to Viper, which I would agree with. By the way, I'm on your side here. I think that, you know, people would look at the match history later and go, but what are you talking about? Knight was so clearly carrying.
There's a story to it, though.
Exactly. There's this whole, like, there's this whole context to the game that really makes Viper's performance that much more impressive, especially when you consider the fact that he is also, like you talked about, bringing a lot of value to the team even before the game starts. The fact that they're able to pick him, Vladimir, and go, we trust you to do well on this. The fact that he does well enough to lane into a 2-kill carry on the other side and still do, I want to say fine, but even good. Like, yeah. These are the things about Viper that I think when you talk about him being scapegoated or maybe undervalued, these are the things that are being undervalued, is the consistency and flexibility that he brings to the roster.
I mean, you know, I think that Viper, just for like the hero's journey that he had to go through, really have to compliment. You know, we just had a movie come out that, about a hero's journey, The Odyssey. I mean, Viper had to go through. He had to go through. Well, I haven't seen the movie yet. He has to go through like a stink hole in the middle of the ocean. He has to fight a Cyclops. He has to do all of this stuff. Metaphorically speaking, I think that Viper went on a journey of similar proportions in this game to get to a valid scoreline. So, yeah, credit over a lot to him for just being able to endure this game, but also just to the rest of BLG. I think we mentioned, talked about, and really elaborated on the struggles that some individual players have had over the course of split number 3 as pertains to what we have been experiencing with the meta. And I think like Shun did a really good job at being able to rein it in. On was still very present around the map at times to his detriment. It's still the same BLG that we all know and love, but I do think some of those growing pains are beginning to show, and I do think that with performances like this, it is clear BLG are beginning to get over it.
And, well, I did not immediately see it coming. The Camille support did look really, really good. Wenbo on Yorick is going to be a talking point because, as we alluded to, it is likely one of Wenbo's last games of the season. The fact that he was playing very well on Yorick, was absorbing a lot of pressure, I think continues to go to the credit of this player. And speaking of players, they have decided, the LPL gods and or staff have decided that that Knight gets player of the game, which is fair. Scoreline looks really good, but I bet it was the AI's doing.
It's got to be Knight, you know? Cooler, flashier looking KDA always wins, and Knight has the coolest KDAs in the world. Everyone was talking about it at MSI. We were talking about it en masse in Split 2, and he's looking to add to his already ostensive collection of cool KDAs and gets himself an MVP for game number 1. But again, I feel like everyone, have to reiterate, from BLG had a really solid performance, and that is just what we expect of them at this point in this, time of the year, where those kinds of things we need to be seeing from them, and we need to be seeing it consistently.
I've seen enough. Give Knight Series MVP. Whatever it is, just if they win,
we're
just
gonna go
boom.
to game 2. We're gonna go to game 3. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, just I've seen enough. Knight MVP all the way. Now, I mean, like you said, really good game and expected to be a continued really good series. As LGD did certainly put up a fight in game 1. I look forward to seeing what that looks like in game 2. Whether they can take this to 3 games as Thunder Talk did up against BLG, or whether they will fall in 2-0 fashion to